Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning into our talk here. My name is Jason Fields. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer with a company called VoiceFi. We're a SaaS-based voice content management system or voice experience platform. We're known both ways. With me today, I've got Tanmay Patel and Chris McPherson. Chris hails from Drexel University in Philly. He has a background in sports marketing and actually did an internship with the Philadelphia Eagles in 1999. And he came on board full time with them in 2004. So this is probably about as close to a lifer as one can get in this this age of job hopping all the time. Fun fact about Chris is that he actually was on-air talent with the Eagles for a long time, which was part of his role as he also did what he does now in terms of content and digital experience management. And then we also have Tanmay Patel. Tanmay is been with the Eagles since 2013. He originally had a trade as a developer. He's worked for Boeing and Lockheed. Fun fact about him is that it was top secret work. So we can't ask him any questions or he has to kill us.
Yeah, I was gonna say you gotta like everything, right?
He stopped working in that sector and ended up transferring over to Aramark, which is the food supply company, and was actually recruited not for football but for his technology and digital marketing chops by the Eagles. So welcome both of you. Thank you for doing this with us for the summit.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely.
All right, so we've all known each other for a little over a year now. We just celebrated our 1-year anniversary as business partners. And the moment that got us all involved was actually draft day of 2020. But I know that there was a lot of conversation leading up to that internally. So I wonder if Tanmay maybe give us a little bit of background of how voice became an area of interest for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely celebrating our 1-year anniversary after coming out of our second draft together. So congrats all around. You know, our brand promise is to inspire and serve the greatest football community in the world. And for us, on our end as Eagles Entertainment, for us to serve the fan with content, we need to be where the fans are. So distribution channels become super important. As voice platforms become more ubiquitous in the world, we wanted to start exploring and playing in that space sooner than later. I use a voice device as a daily driver when I'm kind of getting coffee and getting caught up in some of my news and everything like that. So I know a couple of people around the organization do the same thing. So we thought it might be an interesting opportunity for us to explore here. I think last year too, we saw that content consumption patterns changed quite a bit. So, you know, not only from an additional on-demand lift, but what we found is our fans want more, but they want it in smaller doses and they want it now. So I think, you know, voice skills lend themselves really nicely in us playing in this area. And that's really where we started thinking about what our overall voice strategy could be. And then we found you.
What's interesting about that, to follow up on that, Tammy, is just how it sort of seems like things are coming full circle, where you would think that voice and audio content is so simple, but through podcasts, which is something that we heavily invest in, looking at the voice platforms, this isn't something that has really taken off so far down the road that we're behind the 8 ball. I think that's one of the things as a big business, a big well-known brand, is you have to be careful of, is because you want to be able to freely explore new territories. You also don't want to jump in on trends way after the wave has already passed. So I think this was a good area where we could get in, still be early on the ground, and have some room to experiment and not feel like that we had to deliver something perfect on day one.
So day one and being early and not being too far behind the curve gives you a lot of latitude to choose where to go. How did you guys arrive at that in early days?
I think you know, we are a sports brand, we're a sports organization, sports club. Anybody who's ever worked in the sports industry knows that, you know, we operate as a small business. Our resources, we are strapped a little bit in terms of how many people are actually in our organization. Even though I think we tend to lean a little heavier on our side, rightfully so. I think we're doing a lot everywhere. But you know, we also want to be mindful. Like, we can't hire Amazon Alexa developers. We can't hire Google Newsfeed developers. And you know, I would love to hire them, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, you know, we try to partner with vendors who help us be as nimble as possible. so that we can bring that vendor versatility and that which allows us to kind of play freely and really focus on our content strategy versus thinking about how do we program this and how do we not program this. Overall, when we're thinking about voice strategy, the one thing that we realized is we didn't want to just do something as as Chris kind of alluded to, is we have podcast distribution channels everywhere. We can absolutely just put all of our podcasts right on our voice channels, and we'd be done with it, and we would kind of check off that box. I think for us, what was important is how do we program nuances and voice interactions and so have you, where we can ultimately start having conversational content put out there. So if a fan is asking for XYZ, they're able to not only get XYZ, but also are taken down a path of potentially learning more about additional content and things of that sort. My kids play with the Disney app all the time, and Mickey comes on and he'll kind of go and ask some trivia questions, and my kids are so engaged because they're talking with Mickey and they like Mickey, and every week the content's fresh and different, right? So we wanted the ability to program such content without having having to hire additional engineers to help us kind of program week in and week out.
Welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles voice assistant. Here are some things you can say to get started. You can say, play the latest Eagles Insider podcast.
The flexibility to program really quickly is really what we were looking for, and our partnership with Voicify is really what got us there. And we'll talk more about the product, I'm sure, but we love that flexibility. We love the nimbleness. We're able to do what we want to do week over week. We change certain strategic points depending on wins and losses and how our team is performing and what they're doing and what they're not doing. And all those different nuances we're able to program very easily, and really that's the solution we're looking for.
Hi, Eagles fans, Merrill Reese here. To celebrate the launch of Return Game, Birds, Boys, and Bad Blood, presented by NovaCare Rehabilitation, let's see how well you know the Eagles-Cowboys rivalry.
Yeah, Tammy, I think you touched on a lot of good things there. I think initially it was what small wins can we get, because we don't have the expansive staff that we can just add on people. That's where Voicify has been very helpful, because we've been able to come in and say, well, we have their support staff, their knowledge of best practices. You guys at Voicify, Jason, are already invested in the space, so we can lean on that expertise. Well, a great comparison I would say is, early on in the social media phase, you would say, all right, if I have a piece of content, I'm just going to drop that on every single platform. I don't care if it's Facebook, if it's Twitter, if it's YouTube. If I have a piece of video content, I'm just going to put it everywhere. Well, over time, the platforms have been smart to make it so that you can't do that, and the user behavior on each platform isn't that way. And it goes to something as small as the way that you're going to use your phone, the way you're going to size a video doesn't fit across all those platforms. So you have to make it unique to each one. I sort of see the meme where it's like you have your LinkedIn picture and like your Instagram picture, and they're two totally different worlds. That's the user behavior on those platforms, and you have to adjust to that. So you have to learn about those different things. So I think initially where the pandemic hit us is that my access personally working directly with players and coaches was extremely limited. It was very much from afar. It was all virtual. It was all at a distance. Whereas on a typical day in a normal season, I'd be in the locker room with the players every day. I can get exclusive interviews. I can get, fun facts about the players. I can have players do voice recordings, things that could really enhance that voice app. So we had to kind of take baby steps, I would say, this first year. We would leverage the voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese, who has an iconic voice and is beloved by the fans. And there's those small things that we wanted to build up. We had a couple different marketing pushes throughout the year, one late in the 2020 regular season, another one just around the 2021 NFL draft. And I think the big thing for us there was, let's have something where fans will come, they can experience it, get a taste of it, and hopefully that the product works and it's a seamless experience, because if it's wonky or anything like that, they're not going to want to come back. And B, just give them something, to Tammy's point about his kids playing on the Disney app or any video game. You have that reason to come back. And it makes me think of my boys who are 13 and 11, and the video games they play, it's like they add little things where you can get custom uniforms or different rewards. It's that little gift, that little treat that makes you keep coming back for more.
So you both brought up two subjects that I think everyone that's looking to get into this channel is very interested in hearing stories about. One is content and the other is team, right? So let's take them one by one. So when it comes to content, and we've looked at your editorial calendar, over the past year. You guys have these tent poles of events, right? And that can be considered like, these are the things you anticipate. We're going to have draft day. We're going to have early training. We're going to have the season. You don't know what's going to happen in the season. So you've got this plan of what feels like, back in the day, we call it sort of evergreen content versus like opportunistic content. The things we know we're going to do versus the things that are just going to show up at our doorstep and we got to be prepared to execute. How are you guys thinking through those different models of content? Maybe is the wrong term, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like, how are you incorporating those different opportunities into how you execute?
Yeah, you want to start with that, C-Mac?
Yeah, I'll jump off on that one. So being here full time since 2004, things have changed in the NFL where it is a year-round. It's obviously not a year-round sport, but the news and the attention geared toward the NFL is dictated all 365 days of the year because of events like the draft. And right now there's mini camps and practices going on in the spring. There's always something. The schedule release this year became such a huge event where NFL Network blows it out and there's hour-long specials and teams are doing all this content behind it. So pretty much we have a calendar of all of our big events for the year, ranging from training camp to the season to the off-season events. And we'll look down the line, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months at a time to say, all right, this is on the horizon. What big things do we want to do for this? What can we do to blow it out of the park? Looking at what we've done in the past with such things. And then you're going to have the day-to-day news things. And those are the things that you need to just complement with breaking news. So on the Voice app, for example, for the draft, we had our voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese. When we drafted Devontae Smith with the 10th overall pick, he instantly did a recording pretending that he was announcing his first touchdown in the NFL, something for fans to get excited about. And Merrill was quite excited himself.
Welcome to the Philadelphia Eagles voice assistant. It's time to practice my calls for the first round pick. Devontae Smith goes deep. He hauls it in. Touchdown, Devontae Smith. If you want to learn more about the draft, just say, tell me more about the NFL draft.
But we also made sure to say the nuts and bolts. Okay, when is the draft? Where can I follow it? Where can I watch it? Who did we pick? Who have we signed? So it's that fine balance of trying to look down the road and try to plan out those big picture events. And Jason, that's what you and the Voicify team are very good with, are saying, hey, look, let's get ahead of some things down the road. What marquee events do we have coming up? For example, we have our annual Eagles Autism Challenge, which is a huge run bike event that raises money for the Eagles Autism Foundation. They've raised over $10 million in just a couple of years. That's a big event coming up. It looks like it's going to be during a preseason game this summer. So we're already having those talks about what can we do to incorporate the voice experience, because we haven't really done that in previous iterations.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that one too. It's we as kind of our content creative team is marketed as Eagles Entertainment. We have a pretty extensive catalog of video and stories and articles and images. Chris here also writes, tremendous and wonderful articles as well throughout the season. We want to be complimentary of all of our catalogs as well, right? So there's certain things that work really well in certain regards, and certain things that we think that what we call kind of ancillary content, where it not only can hype up the main content piece that we're looking for, but it can also be like a standalone piece in itself, right? So, for example, we hired a brand new coaching staff this year, and Coach Sirianni, who came on from Indianapolis, he sat down for his first interview. That interview was recorded. It was a one-on-one exclusive video piece that we launched on all of our platforms. But on the voice stuff, we said, well, what can we do to start enhancing that piece? Because fans want to know who Coach Sirianni is, right? So we produced a Q&A, kind of like get to know Coach Sirianni, back and forth, a voice conversation as a content piece, not only as a standalone piece, but it also works in conjunction with this main piece that we're also putting out there. And we're promoting everything together almost synergistically, right? So we realize that there's an opportunity for that too, where voice apps through conversation can also lend nicely to one, understanding and getting to know somebody, for example, but at the same time, hyping up some additional content that we produced on other channels. And I feel, you know, in year two, we're really getting good at that. So that's kind of like have been our focus for, you know, at least what the next year is going to be for us.
Tammy,
Yeah,
it's a really good point. I just want to add real quick. I think one of the
Yeah,
things philosophically for us internally was important early on was when we discuss content, it's usually, okay, how's that going to look in an editorial form, which is my avenue, social, video. Now it's incorporating voice into that as well. And it's important that it's on top of mind for high level executives to really buy in. If you don't have that buy-in, it's not going to go far. But that's
Yeah,
a huge
the coolest thing about that, Jason, is even when our videographers, when they're out there in a shoot, they'll be thinking about like, how do we like excel something like this in a voice environment? So, you know, they were out there shooting video, but at the same time, now they're thinking about, is there anything ancillary that we can capture? Maybe we can use it for voice. You know, I'll give you a really quick example for that one too. But you know, we just kind of mic'd up our offensive and defensive coordinators, released a really cool hype video piece, and then they had their first press conferences. Well, we took a couple of those B-roll snippets that we got, and we're thinking about how do we make them really cool and established on voice. Like if you tell your Alexa or Google device, like, hey, ask the Philadelphia Eagles to hype me up, and then we take those voice snippets or coaching recordings and put them up as like, you know, because they'll be on the field and be like, all right, guys, go get it, you know, those type of things. So,
awesome.
you know, we're actively thinking about those opportunities because we feel like it's one really cool additive element, but at the same time, it can also hype up other ancillary content that we've been creating around just the same space.
Yeah, there's generally only about 4 ways that people get into voice, and exclusive content can be a component of all of them. And what I like about what you guys have done, and this will be probably a good segue over into team structure, but what I like what you guys have done is that you've left everything on the table in terms of opportunity, right? You said, we don't need to create a new concept, a new idea just for voice. We're going to extend some component of what we have and voiceify it. Sorry, that's self-serving. I didn't mean it to be, but we're going to take some component of what existed and we're going to create an exclusive sort of modality around that particular item or that particular subject and just use it for voice. So it's not like you're excluding all of the other channels from playing in it. You're actually extending the experience and into voice.
100%. I think so. I think Google I/O just happened, and I think they used one of their sessions as something to. I think they used the word voiceify. So Jason, you're not wrong. I think voiceify has become a verb now, and you guys actually probably came along at the right time to capture it.
We're very, very happy that Google I/O decided to title one of their sessions "How to Voiceify Your Android App."
There you go. That's the one. Good on you guys.
All right, so let's talk about team structure, because I know that in early days when we all worked together, I think at one point we probably had close to 20 people on a call, right?
Right.
It's gotten a little bit smaller since then, but I still am able to see different people from across the enterprise come and go into the conversation that you guys are having. What makes up sort of a core voice responsible team, and then how does it sort of taper out into an outer circle?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it started again, like I said, we're a small shop, so it's kind of all hands on deck when it comes to something like this. But we established very early on almost a working group that consisted, obviously, for Chris here. By the way, we refer to him as CMAC lovingly, which I think our Eagles fans know. So if you guys hear us telling, you know, saying CMAC, he takes it it's a pride on his collar for sure. But you know, we had a working group established that consisted of our stakeholders on our Eagles entertainment team, stakeholders on our marketing team, as well as our, I guess that's the entire team structure there. But that working group, you know, the whole approach was really thinking about, you know, we're going to start playing in this new space. We have no idea how to play in this space. You know, some of us utilize voice in different manners and things of that sort. But, you know, I think everybody's POV is, it's something that we really try to document and harness, especially during the early kind of strategic sessions that we kind of established, Jason, really thinking about how does marketing view something like this? You know, how does sponsorship view something like this? How does Eagles Entertainment as a content team view something like this? So it was important for us to ideate together, bring in different perspectives. And then once we got those perspectives, I think really thinking about how to now almost funnel it into a working group that's almost day in and day out that can start thinking about how do we start pulling and pushing the levers based on all the strategic thought that we put into this effort. So based on that larger group which you met, and it's probably around 20 deep as well, we filtered out, Chris here, CMAC, is our kind of chief content guy around all voice applications. And to be honest, his perspective on being a content creator, embracing this new challenge and this new platform was, to me, like, it was inspiring. We probably pull him and push him in like 30 million directions he could probably attest to, but this one was another thing where, it's hey, uncharted territory, emergent technology, let's go into it. And he dove in head first. So proud of him to kind of continue to ideate and continue to think about where we can go here. We also have another, our web developer, actually, another Chris Rutledge, is also kind of on our day-to-day execution tactical team, who helps us program kind of all of the different levers that you've given us, Jason, and your team. And in terms of figuring out, like, what's the best welcome message and how do we create multiple welcome messages? What are the journeys in and out look like? And how does, if one person's listening to this particular podcast, what do we do to programming out and continue, like, going down the funnel of getting more content consumed? So, right now, these two guys are spearheading the entire effort, to be honest with you. And then week over week, we have our content creative team. We always bring out ideas there. We always talk about what a voice execution could be. So, for example, CMAC can give a couple of examples in terms of what we did for schedule release and things of that sort. But we start thinking about how this is a viable platform to create new content week over week with our content team as well.
Yeah, I really don't have too much to add to the team standpoint. I think it's what's great about working for the Eagles and working with the Eagles is that you get to collaborate with so many different departments. And again, it's marketing, it's creative services. But Chris Rutledge, I know he's not on this call, but he's an absolute rock star. I'm worried that Voicify is going to hire him because he's really getting a handle on the back end of their system. But it's just been a learning process. I think of it as being like a script writer working with voice, because you have to create conversations. Now, back in the day, my main focus was writing, long form stories or short blog posts about the team and just documenting players' journeys, the latest games, practices, things of that nature. But this is different, where you almost have to think, it's like, okay, if I'm going to ask for this, what is the response going to be? And then what is going to be the device's response? How do we go forward? Yeah, exactly. And you have to think those different steps down the line. And it's just been a very intriguing process that still we're still learning. And I know Voicify just launched their new backend system, their new CMS, which is going to help take some of the automation and help us in that regard. So we're looking forward to really digging deep into that to help be more efficient with the time, just because, to Tammy's point, we are pulled in many different directions throughout the course of the season.
Well, so we just have a minute or two left here in our time. Let me close out, and CMAC, maybe give me your perspective. Is there like a future function, a future state of what your fans could be able to, not committing to anything, but like, is there something out there, just sort of that blue sky idea that really gets you excited about what, like, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now, people could be doing with you guys through Alexa and Google?
I definitely think monetization through things like merchandise and charity giving. I mentioned our Eagles Autism Foundation. It's a way to connect that, so fans who are involved in the Eagles Autism Challenge can donate right there, or send out links to their friends so they can donate on their behalf. It could be when you're watching a game and Jalen Hurts throws a 50-yard touchdown pass to Devontae Smith. Man, I want to get that Jalen Hurts #1 jersey. He's lighting it up. Hey Alexa, order me a large midnight green #1 Jalen Hurts jersey. Boom. It's things of that nature. So I definitely think it's that aspect of it, but also it's just more and more of, Tammy hit on the fact that it's like you want to get away from using the Alexa voice. You want to incorporate the players, the coaches, the people who are involved with the team more, to make it more about the Eagles.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you both so much for your time in doing this with us. We really appreciate it. I know the community appreciates hearing from people that are actually executing this, and not just from a platform telling them they should. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and For anybody out there interested in experiencing the Philadelphia Eagles, you can invoke it directly with Philadelphia Eagles on Google or Alexa, or if you want to see more, you could actually go to philadelphiaeagles.com/voice, and they've got a whole page dedicated to sharing what you can do through the assistants with their team. Guys, thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Go
Go
Birds.
Birds.
Go Birds.
Hey Google, ask the Philadelphia Eagles to play the fight song.